like to personally welcome all of you back. You are a great group of kids. You have had some incredible questions.
Yeah.
You are welcome. Now we would like to welcome our featured guest, Chief Richard Gonzalez.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Thank you.
For anyone who did not have the opportunity to see our last segment, I'd like to just give you a real quick snapshot of Chief Gonzalez's background. Chief joined the Corona PD in 1998, but prior to that had a very impressive career with the LA Police Department for more than 26 years, where he served in the Hollenbeck Division and retired as a captain.
Right.
You also have a master's degree and a bachelor's degree and have done some extensive educational preparation for the position that you hold now.
Right.
And the reason I'm making that point is because in our last segment, you mentioned something that the kids really sunk their teeth into and got excited over. And that's when they were talking about how a young person today might prepare to be a police officer. And you mentioned that one of the ways that they might do that is to become involved in a cadet program.
Right.
Well, the kids were very interested in that, and so we today have invited to join us two of the cadets from the cadet program of the Corona Police Department.
Yeah.
I would like all of you to welcome Cadet Danielle Pack and Cadet Ryan Craig. Cadets Ryan Craig and Danielle Pack have agreed to spend a few minutes with us today to answer some questions from the group of today's youth and drama students that are here. I would like to ask any one of you who has a question to pose that question to me, and we will pass that along to the cadets and see what kind of answers they have. Who has a question? Question?
Oh, how did your lifestyle change when you became
How did your lifestyle change when you became a cadet?
My lifestyle hasn't really changed so much because I'm pretty active with school. I'm going to Cal State San Bernardino, so that keeps me real busy with homework and staying focused with that. So pretty much it hasn't really changed. I've been active, so I've just been doing the same thing and just working with the police department and learning as much as I can.
So you're carrying full load at school and you're involved in the cadet program?
Yes.
That's a big load. Another question.
What made them become attracted to the idea of law?
The group would like to know what attracted you to the idea of becoming a law enforcement officer?
I want to become a police officer because I used to watch the show Cops on TV, and I really liked that. So then I took a ROP law enforcement class in my high school, and they had a poster saying cadet applicants were available, so I put in to be an applicant, and out of 16, I got hired. So
congratulations.
Yeah, it was a lot.
See, TV can have a positive influence, right? Who else? Yes.
My question for Cadet Pack, did you find it difficult to choose a woman as a cadet?
That's a great question. Cadet Pack, do you find it difficult as a woman to be a cadet?
There is a slight difference just because we have to carry ourselves up into the basically the man's level. You know, we don't want to be looked down upon just because we're girls, and I mean we are smaller, most of the women who work there, and so we have to be strong enough to deal with whoever we need to deal with. And so also just being younger, and there's a lot of pressure from different people. You just want to be looked at the right way and just be looked at as a respectable person. So yeah, I mean there's differences, but
nothing that would keep a woman from
No.
becoming a cadet.
no, it's a great challenge. It's fun. So
You look like you enjoy it. Who else?
I was wondering if they carry the same equipment just as police officers. I understand that you can't have a gun until you're 21, but they wear bulletproof vests, have cameras or anything?
Are you, as cadets, equipped in the same way that a normal police officer would be equipped, with the exception maybe of carrying a weapon?
Slightly. We do have radios, the HTs, just in case, because we are out just like them every once in a while. If we say go from one station to the next, we're going to need it just in case. We have our key holder, just, because we need keys to get in. But we only wear the vest if we go on a ride-along, and that way we're protected while we're out there with the officers. But besides that, we wear the uniform and the belts, and that's about it.
Great. Another question.
I wanted to ask them if this field, their decision in this field, is worth the long-time commitment.
Question is your decision to enter this field, and knowing not everyone is going to make it into the police department, worth the long-term commitment that you're putting into it?
To me it is. I think law enforcement's a lifetime career. My goals are to be like Chief Gonzalez and maybe be a chief of a local police department. But if you stay healthy, it'll be, well worth it. But if you get hurt, you might have to make other plans. So that's just whatever happens, I guess happens. So hopefully it works out.
Good. Any other questions? Chief, any
Yes.
question you think that the cadets should answer for the group that maybe hasn't been thought of?
Well, why don't you tell us about your duties? What do you do, and have you moved at all from the time you were hired to a different assignment?
I was hired almost exactly 4 months ago, so I haven't really moved anywhere. I am assigned to a couple spots, just filling in for other people. Right now, one of my main duties is taking care of the homeless shelter. I do a service eligibility card program where basically they're applying to stay at the shelter, and then we run a simple background on them just to make sure that they're not going to be harmful to anybody else, even the kids, especially in the homeless shelter. So I do that for them, and then I also just do make sure the officers' equipment needs are met, their cars are running smooth. I work with fleet on that. And then I also just started working with the canines, so I go to their events and just kind of get in there with them to see what that's like, because it's a different position. It's a really different, so.
Okay.
I was hired by the police department in April. I was trained for 2 months in the records department, which is basically where all the reports are processed. People from the public can call and ask questions. Questions are answered. I used to work the front lobby, the counter. But then I was moved to the traffic department. So now I drive around the city and write parking tickets, assist officers in traffic collisions, run errands, any errands that are needed, because traffic's a subdivision, so it's not actually out of the main station. So if I need to go to the main station to pick things up, I pretty much am just like an errand boy, and I can write tickets, so it's kind of fun.
Thank you.
Last thing, anything that either of you would like to say to this group?
Actually, yeah, if you guys are interested, I know some of you guys are probably close to our age, so you could do this program. Those of you that are younger, maybe, I think there were like 13, 14-year-olds, there is another program that's an Explorer, and it's really an awesome program. Like, I've seen them train at night, and if this is where you're looking, say, just to be an officer, they train you, like push-ups, commands, like they really get you ready, and I wish I had the opportunity to do it, but if you're young enough, try that out, see if you like it. And then also our program's great. You have a lot of fun, and even if you're interested and you feel like putting the time in, getting through, it's really fun. You'll really enjoy it.
Well, thank you both very much. Let's give them a big round of applause for being with us tonight.
Thank you. Good job.
We are going to pause right now for a commercial break, and then we will be back with some more questions for the chief.
Hi, my name is Gilbert Holguin, and I have a question for Mayor Pro Tem. How long do your meetings usually last?
Well, our regular city council meetings, which are the first and third Wednesday evenings, usually about anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, but that's because we have a committee structure where a lot of the footwork that we have in our city business is handled during the week, during the days. We ask all of our staff there. We have the community that's invited if they have a specific issue they want to discuss. So the evening meetings, which are the ones that are viewed on cable, are a lot shorter, but the work is not less. It's a lot longer, actually, because we're more thorough. We ask the staff to go look at things outside the box. And I feel really confident that our structure is very efficient, very effective.
All right, thank you very much.
Welcome back to Today's Youth. In last week's show, our group posed some really good questions to Chief Richard Gonzalez of the Corona Police Department. There were so many questions, in fact, Chief, that you were asked back today to answer a few more. Are you ready for that?
Absolutely.
I think the first question is going to come this week from Karina.
Hi, Karina.
Hi, Chief. I noticed that there are different codes for certain crimes. Why is that?
Well, all of the codes, well, I can't say all of them. The majority of codes deal with state law. And as an example, there are vehicle code violations, primarily dealing with driving, health and safety code issues dealing with drug use, penal code dealing with crimes. And the penal code section is clearly the largest out of all of them. State penal code deals with felonies, misdemeanors, infractions. And then beyond that, there are a few city municipal codes that we also enforce. So there's a lot to learn for every officer.
What a memorization, huh?
Yes.
Next question is coming from Rachel.
Besides at school and at schooling events, where can we see your officers stationed?
Well, the officers really don't have a specific location. What we do have, as an example, on the patrol side, we have officers assigned to zones, different sections of the town. Every sergeant and every officer is assigned to. So an officer that comes to work, patrol, every day, they know the section of the city where they are going to work. So do the sergeants. They're expected to know the patterns in that zone. They expect to know the stakeholders in that zone. As an example, if there's a high school in their zone, to interact with the school resource officer. And every area is different. If you think about it, South Corona is primarily residential. The east side of town, we have the McKinley area, which is primarily retail, a lot of apartments, condominiums. The west side, Green River, again, a totally different section, just as the downtown area is. And so, while they are assigned to the zones, they don't necessarily stay in a specific area.
Thank you,
Okay.
Chief.
How many police are assigned to the force, Chief?
We have 170 officers. We'll have 171 January 1st.
Great. Next question is going to come from Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi. I was wondering what the former citizens of Corona's reactions were to learning of racial tension.
Well, I don't break it up into the former citizens. I think it's the current. And when I look at those kind of issues, I'm interested in the entire community. We had, as an example, some community meetings earlier in the year. My goodness, there were over 400 people at some of these community meetings. I sense the majority of racial tensions deal with fear more than specific crimes, because I do look at every month at hate-related crime, racial-related crime. The majority of those incidents appear to be misdemeanors, graffiti-related type things. We do have some violent crime involving race, I would estimate we probably have a serious incident, race-related, about once every quarter. And that can be, starting with some verbal confrontations to some physical confrontations. It is a very small volume of overall crime, but it is a segment of our crime that clearly can cause, again, this fear to rise throughout the community. So we pay close attention to it. Okay.
That's a very good question. I believe, Janae, you have a question for the chief.
Hi.
What percentage of crimes are committed by juveniles?
Yeah, I looked that up last week and did some crime analysis, very parallel to the rest of the United States. In our community, about 17% of all of our crime is juvenile related. And we base that on a combination of crime reports, arrest reports, but 17%, and really that's pretty high. It's the age between 16 and 24 where most crime is committed. It's very standard throughout the United States. And then obviously the age group, the older the age group, that crime percentage really drops.
Thank you.
Take care.
Hi, Austin. You had another question for the chief.
Hi, Austin.
I was just wondering, do you enjoy your job?
Oh yeah, that's easy. I love my job. I have a great time. I really enjoy it. The community treats me great. The employees within the police station, they're just wonderful. And I tremendous support also throughout the community. Thank you for asking that.
Well, on that happy note, we're going to take a short commercial break, but stay tuned because we'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Ashley Lowe, and I'm here with Jerome Red. And I understand that there was a resource meeting recently, and I wanted to know how you felt we progressed in that meeting.
Yeah, you're right. There was a resource meeting a week ago today. And each meeting that we have, I think that we make a little bit more progress and to address the issues that the youth has as well as the parents that show up. One of the things that continues to come to everyone's attention is that the youth have a lot to say, and I would like to see a forum put together where the youth could somehow get together and feel comfortable about speaking their minds on issues that are important to them. The resource meeting that we had last week was to address racial conflict, which is never a dead issue. This is something that the youth deal with on every level in schools, from elementary schools to middle schools to high schools. So it needs to be something that the youth can feel comfortable about speaking with amongst yourselves, and as well as letting adults know how you feel about it and how we should work to not resolve it, because I believe it's always going to be there, but at least address it and make you guys feel comfortable as youth in the community.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back to Today's Youth, where we're visiting with Police Chief Richard Gonzalez, who is answering questions from our local youth and teens about law enforcement in Corona. Welcome back, Chief.
Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from Joshua.
Hi, Josh.
Hello, Chief, again. I have a question for you. What, off the top of your head, is about the police officer to citizen ratio in Corona? And for this size of a city, what's the amount it's supposed to be?
Well, I believe the current number is 1.1 per 10,000 residents. And It is in line with what most cities have. I can tell you that the major cities throughout the United States have a ratio much higher, but part of that reason is because of violent crime in their community. When we look at our community, I think it's 9% of all crime is violent crime related. The majority of crime we have is property related crime. Okay?
Thank you. That was a really good question and a really good answer, Chief. That's good statistics. Alyssa, you have a question.
Yes, thank you. I was wondering what the difference was between police department, sheriff's department, and the highway patrol.
City departments account for the majority of law enforcement, especially in the state of California. There are a little over 300 city police departments, and then of course there are 50 plus counties in the state. The counties are all elected positions. The sheriff is the appointed law enforcement official. They primarily deal with the jail facilities, the housing of prisoners. They deal with the courts, and they patrol unincorporated areas. The state, of course, policing is the California Highway Patrol. They primarily focus on freeway activity throughout the state. Okay.
Our next question comes from Matt.
Many teens I know feel as if the police may think lower of them. What's your response to that?
You know, that's an interesting perspective. I really think it is a false perspective. That is my personal opinion. And I base that on comments that I hear from the officers that work for me. And I'll give you the best example. The school resource officers, I have 7 full-time officers that work at the schools. They love what they do. When I have a vacancy there, I always have applications, people wanting that assignment. And so I don't feel that officers look down on teens. Now, I can tell you one issue that really bothers officers, and this is behavior. Okay, so we're not talking about teens in general, but driving habits amongst teens at times can be a real serious problem. And to go to a traffic accident and see young adults seriously injured because of the driving habits of maybe an immature teen behind the wheel, or someone that has consumed alcohol and not only endangered themselves but their friends in the car. That can be frustrating. And unfortunately, teen driving, it's all part of growing up in a maturity process, and that's about the only time I sense that there's frustration by the officers.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Hi, Erica. What's your question for the Chief?
I was wondering if the Corona Norco Police has dispatched any officers to help with some natural tragedies in the other states, like the Hurricane Katrina tragedy.
No, we haven't. I did get an email notification, though, that 1,000 law enforcement officers were going to be sent, and that I needed to prepare and develop a plan. In prior interaction with the county sheriff, I estimated that would be 8 to 10 personnel from our police department. What I was told in the email is a final decision would be made the next day. When I notified the workforce, interestingly, I immediately got 10 volunteers. I'll go. And we knew it would be, if we did go, it would be a 2-week time away. And then the next day that I received a follow-up email, and they said, no, we won't be meeting you. So, but we were prepared to go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chief, we're going to take just a short break, and then we will invite some of the young people back to ask you some closing questions.
Great.
Picture this. This is your business. Now, this is your business with the chamber. Get it? Networking with others can make a big difference.
Do you know www.coronachamber.org has over 19,000 hits a month? Come, join us. Add your voice to the 1,000 member strong Corona Chamber of Commerce.
Be a part of the Corona Chamber of Commerce.
We only have time for one more question in this segment, but before we do that, Chief, I think you had something you wanted to update for us?
Yes, I just wanted to make a clarification. I was asked a question earlier about the amount of officers and the number of people that live in the community. And I think I said at 1.1 officer per 10,000. Well, I clearly misspoke. I meant 1.1 officer per 1,000 in the community.
All right, good. That was a good
Thank you.
clarification.
Yes.
Sure. Our next question comes from Christina.
Hi, Christina.
Hello. My question is, have you ever been brutally hurt by a suspect?
No, very thankful. I've never been seriously hurt. Been shot at a couple times. Thankfully, the person missed. And the only injuries I have sustained in the 34 years were very, very minor, where I had to go to the emergency room and was released.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that is all of the time that we have for this segment. Chief, we'd like to thank you so much for taking so much time to spend with this group.
I enjoyed it. Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
It's always a pleasure. And I know that our viewers at home have really enjoyed having the opportunity to meet you, if only by television, and get a different perspective on our police force and what they're doing in our community. We invite you to join us for Today's Youth next time. Thank you.